Okay, so today we are doing something different with this chat. Same setup, but usually Nathan plans these out and asks the questions. And today I came up with the questions and I'm gonna ask Nathan the questions. And he has no idea what I have planned.
I think in my mind this is essentially your revenge for me springing a 10-question questionnaire on you last week, which was very vague and hard to answer.
Well, I'm also really nervous about this because what if you think it's a bad idea, because it really could be a bad idea. So you can feel free to
I don't think it will be the first or last bad idea we have together.
That's true. So Nathan and I talk about long-term strategy with where we want to go, and I mean, YouTube is something that we enjoy doing, but it's not the end goal necessarily. And because that we think that it's possible that we are going to be in each other's lives for many years, I thought it would be fun if we went over just some general questions about your ideas of life and what you think is important now versus like when you look back in 10 years, you're going to think different things are important today than you do then. So I thought it would be fun.
These sound like they're going to be very profound questions that I'm going to like.
No,
you know, okay,
they're
so I
very
have this
simple.
thing where...
Go ahead.
Yeah, they're deceptively simple. I have this thing where like in like 4 days time I'll be thinking, oh god, I wish I said that answer. That answer would have been so good, you know? That would have looked so spontaneously brilliant. I have this idea that, yeah, moments need to be like crafted or pre-planned rather than just, you know, gone along with. So maybe this is a learning curve for me. Also, I should say one thing about these videos because I've been thinking this for a while. I would like to have us both shown on the screen at the same time. The problem is like my face. I have like a resting, what's the male equivalent? Like a resting bastard face. When I'm paying attention and listening intently, but my face doesn't always reflect that, so.
Okay, so these are not listed in any specific order. So my first one that I wrote down is, what do you think regret is? What are you afraid of regretting? Interesting.
So, okay, I've had this actually like philosophical dilemma for a while. I'll try not to be too tangential here.
No, go. Be like, because this will be fun. Like this is a lot for you and I just to look back on in 10 years. So go hard.
So, okay. I feel like that's your advice for almost everything, but okay. You often hear about people saying, like older people, like a deathbed regret or something, or they wish they'd done these things. But I often wonder if they actually did those things. Have they just idolized it in their mind in retrospect, which is very easy to do with a lot of things. So for example, when you get up day to day, you have like these lofty goals in life of what kind of person you want to be, what you want to achieve. Then you have like the day-to-day pleasures, which is just like, maybe I just want to sit at the garden in the sun with, you know, a nice drink or something. The latter option has a lot of day-to-day pleasure. So there's always been in my mind this conflict between like the more lofty ideals and pleasures, like achievement or being known for something, versus, hang on a minute, this just makes me happy in day-to-day life. I've never really come to a conclusion, but I actually, maybe this contradicts what I do in day-to-day life, but I would probably say that doing what makes you happy day-to-day would take precedent over it. So I guess in that sense, I'm not a big advocate of regrets in general. I know that there's a difference between regrets and remorse. I think I always get this wrong way around. Regret is for something that you didn't do but wish you had, and remorse is for something that you did do and wish you hadn't. One of those is correct, whichever way around it is. So a remorse is a thing I could have. Like I think back, oh my god, that was so stupid, why did I do that? Especially if in the moment I was thinking, shall I, shan't I? Or I was doing something, you know, just behaving in a way that was, you know, what I would consider below my standards in whatever realm. But for regretting something you didn't do when you don't know whether you would have actually liked it, I think that's probably best left out of the equation. Also, it comes back to a lot of things that, like a lot of people we admire and we listen to, would say things like, you know, well, actually just one person we admire says this, but I really enjoy it. Don't judge yourself. Like, you know, enough other people who will judge you. Like, just try and avoid self-judgment. So I wouldn't try to beat myself up about not doing something when I can help it. I'll just try to think if there is something though, just to kind of contradict my own thoughts. If there is one big thing that I really would. I guess it's more of a general attitude towards things. If I look back and thought I didn't, as you said, go hard on something that I liked or really didn't try, that would probably bother me. Ironically, I was very into Kobe Bryant as a character, and then he ended up, you know, dying just like 2 months after I started watching his stuff. And he got me into basketball. I ended up going back through the history of basketball to enjoy it and watch it. And there's a very good Michael Jordan documentary at the moment. And they are two people, that Michael Jordan and him, that like, regardless of whether they won or lost, and they did often win more than lose, you can tell that they were just relentless in their pursuit of, you know, doing everything they can for their craft. And then when their career is done, it's done. But that kind of thing, yeah, I would regret that if I look back and thought, wow, I didn't give all my effort there, regardless of whether I succeeded or not. So that's the overall general regret I would have about not trying, I guess.
Also haven't really prepared for this, but so I'm gonna go off the cusp so it's kind of fair as well. But my thing about regret is kind of the same thing, not going for what you want. I think that, I mean, I do think that life, it seems like from the experience I've had, that life really is a balance with enjoying the day-to-day, but even sometimes facing things that you don't want to face are unpleasant in the moment, but once you do them and you overcome it, it becomes pleasant, and then that memory is pleasant in hindsight, but in the moment it's painful. And so I think that I would regret if I conformed. I mean, I think this feels like a general theme that I have going on, but if I conformed to what people thought I should be and didn't fully embrace who I am and continually try to go for what I want, I think I would regret that. I don't really buy into the whole idea of remorse, because in every moment I do what I think is best with the knowledge I have at hand. So I don't suffer from remorse or guilt at all.
Okay, so you brought up another like philosophical issue of, yes, there are day-to-day pleasures, but what if you go through pain and realize on the other side of pain is a pleasure that is far beyond those day-to-day pleasures? Now, that's fascinating, because comparing me and you were someone that could easily enjoy day-to-day pleasures.
I do.
So for you, that would feel like, hang on a minute, that's not an achievement, that's my default.
Yes.
How can I be, you know, impressed by myself by doing that? But for me, I feel like I sometimes forget to enjoy day-to-day pleasures.
Yes.
Or enjoy the moment. So it feels like more of an achievement for me to kind of stop thinking about the future or analysing the past and stay in the moment.
That's so true. That's so true, Nathan. Sometimes you'll tell me after a day of just enjoying the day, you'll explain to me in great detail about how just going on a walk was fun, or that's fascinating. And whereas I just do that just by my very nature, I have the best time every day.
For basically my entire life, I wouldn't say I was known as someone that did this, but whenever my mother or family would say, do you want to go on holiday? I'd be like, no, I don't. I mean, it's one of those things where I'd always say, I don't really care. It's not where I am, it's about what I'm doing. So, I mean, I'd just be doing the same things in a different country, you know, so it didn't make any difference. And then it was kind of, I'm not sure when it was, but in the last few years, it was kind of revelatory. There was a summer that was really nice in the UK, which is getting less and less common, it seems, to have really nice weather in the UK. Although we've got some now, thankfully. And there were just weeks in a row where it was just days on the beach, coming back, eating nice food, spending time with family. Things that on the face of it sound very simple, but they were just like, I would go to bed, firstly tired, physically tired, which is obviously something that I think is important, and a lot of people don't get anymore, hence the erratic sleeping patterns. I go to bed feeling tired and satisfied and wake up looking forward to the day. I'm not saying I don't do those things now, but it was shocking to me how little was actually required to get to that state. Like, I'd have to have a long to-do list that I'd check off things and feel like I've really achieved something before. But with that, I felt I'm not saying that I have a void that needs to be filled, that's really way too dramatic and not true. But sometimes, like, people beat themselves up when they haven't had a productive day. I'd be someone that's like that. But I didn't feel any need. No need to kind of, you know, strive to do something. I felt like I'd already reached that state that you're striving towards by doing simple things, so that was very revelatory to me. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, and you and I talk about, because that you don't like going to bed and you don't like waking up, but I'm tired when I go to bed and I'm excited for the day when I wake up. So, that's fascinating.
If I could have a superpower, like a low-level superpower, it would be to transport myself into bed, like teeth cleaned, washed, all the stuff taken off, like I'd get myself out of bed, fully dressed, without putting the effort in. If I could do that, I'd just be my life would be completely revolutionized.
I don't know why you make it so hard. It's not hard at all.
Me neither.
Okay, let's see. What do you desire in life?
Please tell me there's more to that question. Is that
That's it?
Okay, let me see. Let me see if I can figure out like an underlying pattern between most of the things I do. Firstly, I always feel like I go down a weird angle with these answers, but I like competence. Like, I like there to be things in life that I'm good at. Obviously, I guess that's a subjective thing to a certain extent, but I tend to, if I get a little inkling, oh, I could be good at this thing, or at least better than average, I'm very attracted to that thing. So the idea of being good or getting better, I don't want to be as lofty to say growth mindset, but I guess it is something along those lines. The idea of growing, getting better, like when I look at myself over the last 2 years with the stuff we've been doing, I feel like I'm a much more developed person in a lot of ways. That's something that's been painful stuff to go through, to realise it, but you realise stuff about yourself, you gain skills, you do things that, like sitting in front of a camera is not something I ever thought I would do on a regular basis, let alone okay, this is something I was discussing the other day. You guys don't say fortnightly, do you?
No.
That word is not an American word. Fortnightly means once every 2 weeks in the UK. What does bi-weekly mean?
Same thing.
Oh, because for some, I would think that bi-weekly meant twice a week. So do you have a name for twice a week? Is that even a thing?
Twice a week.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess I'm giving you, your vocabulary too much credit to the US.
No, I mean, don't lump everyone in with my vocabulary. I'm just a simple girl.
Increasing competence over time in different areas and new areas as well. Like, I like to be good at things and then good at new and more and more things over time. If I had to summarize it, I'd say growth in all areas would be nice, except like maybe my waistline.
So I need to be respectable for myself to live with myself. And obviously everybody's idea of what is respectable, you know, it's subjective. And my idea of what is respectable will probably change over the course of time. But right now I have down that I must be honest. So I think that the reason I love honesty so much is because that it...
Let me just interject there for a second. When people say that they're very honest, often it's like, it's BS. And often, when people say that, they're often like quite good liars as well, I've often found. With you though, it's definitely the case because I think I'm pretty good at detecting like logical inconsistencies. When people have said something in the past and they contradict it, it just happens very natural to me to notice that. And I almost never notice you doing that. In fact, I might even say pretty much never. I even pointed this out to you quite a while back, maybe like a few weeks ago. I said, do you lie much? Because the only other explanation is that everything you say is a lie, which is not possible, or you don't lie at all. Because it's a little bit of an alien concept to me, because, you know, I feel like a lot of people's lives are built on at least white lies. So, and you, I guess in some way you do that, what is it called? Radical candor? Have you ever heard of that phrase before? I think that's definitely a phrase that's known. So I very rarely see you lie. Like, I've been telling lies in my life, like, for so long that I've actually like, oh shit, that's not true. You know, I've not even convinced myself. So, you know, very different kettle of fish over this side of the pond.
I will say that I want to get back to the not lying thing. I have a very specific reason why I don't lie. But sometimes I do lie when I tell stories. If I were a fisherman and I caught a fish, say it was a 9.5-foot fish. I don't know what kind of fish I'm catching, but I would say it was
big fish.
10 feet, and then I would, you know, push it to 12, you know?
Okay, yeah.
On those kinds of things, I do lie sometimes, but about the lying, I don't lie because I feel like I've always felt like that is what's going to push me to be the person that I can be proud of. If I must be honest at all times, first of all, it will allow me to it does so many things. It filters out the people that don't like me for me. And secondly, it makes me, if I show up in life exactly how I am, like this is exactly who I am, if I'm embarrassing, I mean, obviously, like that may not be the right way of saying it. If I'm ashamed of something that I'm bringing to the world, then I can't just hide it. I must change it within. So I feel like it's always been one of those things. And so this is how I was when I was really young, which is just extremely honest. But then I went through a period where I realized that, oh, people are lying and they're using it to get ahead, and it seems to be working, and other people are accepting that people are lying. And I bought into it for a little while, and I feel like I had a chapter in my life when I tried all the things that went exactly against what I believed and what my principles are. Like I had a whole chapter of my life where I did that and it didn't work. I would prefer to fail and be looked down upon. I would prefer almost anything than for me to feel about myself how I felt when I wasn't honest. So, long tangent.
Okay, so what you were saying there reminded me of a few things. First thing was the video we did in the last few weeks, taking the pain up front. In a sense, being honest is like choosing to not defer pain. Often lies are, when people lie, there's almost like an inevitability that it'll be caught out, or that you will experience pain in the long run. Like, you know you're living a lie, or you know that there's, you know, a lack of truth involved. Yet you're delaying that sort of that punch of pain that you would get up front by being honest. So that taking the pain up front to act as a filter in your life is fantastic. But I was more interested in the point you made about putting your weaknesses out there, or what you feel are things you want to improve, as like a pressure upon yourself to figure them out. I've heard a story about Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think this is referring to him. And when he was, you know, I don't know if he was even famous at this point, but when he was, you know, building his body up, he was very embarrassed by his calves or his legs, because they weren't, you know, I guess he skipped leg day for quite a while. And he'd always wear shorts when he was out. He'd always want people to see them. He always wanted to have his weaknesses on display, basically. So he'd have that pressure, that kind of feedback loop to make him do it, which is just fascinating. Also, just on the subject of Arnie, he once came to Port Talbot, which is where I live in the UK, in Wales. And there's a place that's actually got burnt down now. It was like a swimming centre, swimming pool thing. And when he came to visit, he couldn't fit through the door, so they had to open like these huge double doors to get him through. He couldn't even, like, even sideways, he couldn't fit through like a normal sized door. So,
oh my god, that is insane. The next thing that I have is I must be stable. And what I mean by that is setting up my life so that I'm not easily blown away by any setback, including but not limited to relationships, emotional maturity, and finances. So that comes with the stability thing. I think that has to do with the value I put on my relationships in my life. I mean, Nathan, you and I are business partners, and I think it's important for me to be somebody that you can trust, that when times get hard, like, it's gonna be fine. I'm still gonna be a strong partner on the side. You know what I mean? And that has to do with every single one of my relationships in my life, my family, my siblings, my husband, everybody. I have a need, my jobs, that people can know that I am somebody that can be counted upon. The next thing that I have on the list of my desires for life is I must be kind, and the most powerful person in a given situation always has the luxury of being the most gentle. Broken people self-protect.
Okay, let me just ask you this though, as a kind of counter to that. When you say always be kind, there is also such a thing as, well, I mean, I hope this exists and I haven't just, you know, unnecessarily made this something I do, but there is also such a thing as tough love, or being cruel to be kind sometimes. Is that kind of encompassed within that kindness?
Yes, that is, because that is kind. I mean, you've seen me go through situations where I've been brutal with people. Brutal. You know what I mean?
True. I guess that links back to the honesty as well, though. Because it's like, yeah,
well, but
if you want to be kind
also,
and you want to be honest as well, sometimes the best thing is the
but I mean,
honesty.
also, I mean, weak people don't have the strength to be as disagreeable as is sometimes needed for people to, I mean, I think in all intimate relationships, sometimes you really have to punch the other person for their own good. You know what I mean? So it is kind. I guess gentle might not be the word I want to use there, but like just kind. That you have to be brave. You have to be brave enough to punch the other person, because there's going to be hate. There's going to be anger. Like, there's going to be retaliation sometimes. Maybe not hate, but there's going to be a lot of negativity that you have to deal with if you do dish out tough love. But to be kind, I mean, you have to. You know what I mean? The next one is I must conduct myself in a way that brings resources and value to the table and that's for the people that I interact with. And then I must consider my future self. And then I must be willing to give up everything for myself. And then I have in parentheses, these non-negotiables are myself, and then also my people. So, I mean, these principles I'm talking about and my people, I must be willing to withstand any kind of punishment that comes, to stand up for these things that I believe, which is like losing everything, losing my reputation, losing my finances, losing.
This is a topic for another day, but just out of curiosity, in the period where you were, what age were you when you left the Amish? Like properly left?
15.
You said about losing everything just there. Do you consider that time, considering it is like a complete, it's like being pulled out of the Matrix or something, put into a different world? Do you consider that a time where you, in a sense, lost everything, or at least lost everything the way it was?
Right, and I think probably this is where I came up with this whole principle. I lost everything, and through losing like my future that I had planned out, my friends, my family, my lifestyle, my value that I brought to the world, I was already set up in a system where I was bringing value, and I was valued, and I was prized, and I had a value, but I also had principles at the same time. But when I lost all the outside stuff, like my family, my immediate family fell apart. I mean, which a lot of people that go through hard times, that's not unusual at all. If you go through tragedy as a family, you'll fall apart oftentimes. And so I lost absolutely everything. And through that, I let go of these very, very simple concepts. And because of that experience, I know that if I had stuck to these through the process, it would have been much easier.
That's fascinating what you mentioned. There's two things there. First one was about how one of the big issues was the fact that you were already doing well in that environment. You knew your role, you knew how to bring value, you knew how to like play the game of life under those circumstances. And then I guess not dissimilar to the coronavirus thing that's happening now, the rug gets pulled and you go, hang on a minute, how do I continue to bring value? Which is something I think that is a huge desire that people have that they might not realize, because sometimes you feel like you're missing something in your life, whereas the issue is that you're not giving something in your life. That's something I've realized on many occasions. It's kind of mind-blowing thing.
Obviously this can't be, I mean, this isn't across the board always, but I know that when I was extremely depressed, I mean, I did lose everything. I went through extreme tragedy, but at the same time, I got my life back when I began to bring value to the people in my life. And so I think if you talk to a lot of people that are depressed, find out like how much time they think about bringing value to other people.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, there's obviously, it's infinitely complex, people's emotional, mental health and states, but it does seem, if there was like a one trick solution for all conditions, which there obviously isn't, and that would be bad advice if anyone ever tells you that, by the way. Giving is like the antidote to so many things, because it gives you perspective as well, because especially if you're giving to someone you realise is in a worse off state than you, that's a real, oh my god, hang on a minute, I am in a sense here, comparatively, even if you're in a terrible situation, I'm comparatively in a position of power, or you could even say position of privilege if you want to take it too far, even though that word's been used politically too many in ways I'm not a fan of. But yeah, you realise your own strength to give, in a sense, which is such a liberating feeling.
Alrighty, well that's all I have on that list. Thank you for listening to me rant.
Yeah, I enjoyed your TED talk.
What do you fear in life? Do you have a fear?
The only thing really is probably mental illness, because I'm probably someone that's pretty dependent on their brain. I mean, yeah. Everyone is dependent on their brain, even though I've met a few people, that I would say maybe not so much. That would scare me though. Like things, medical conditions like Alzheimer's, where you forget people you know and people you love, that kind of stuff is like that's pretty terrifying. The brain is such a mysterious thing to us at this point as well, that, yeah. So that's the only thing that really scares me. Also, like certain flying insects, for some reason. Like, do you have dragonflies in the US? Is that a thing that's known?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really dislike those for some reason. Ultimately, I know that if it just flew onto me, it can't do any damage, but at the same time, like, yeah. When it's in the room, I'm like getting spray things like, I don't have fly spray here, so I'm like spraying like Lynx deodorant on them. So I think I'm just like improving their sexual attractiveness rather than killing them, but yeah. Probably helping them reproduce more, because all the males smell like Lynx. That would be my only one though. Mental illness would be the only thing I list as an actual, genuine, fear.
I don't know. I mean, I think I fear that as well, but not as much. All right. So my last question is, do you have any secret lofty ideas or goals? Secret, because I would like to be impressed with this. I'm gonna grab a popsicle really quickly. I'll be right back. 2 secs.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my lofty goal, even though this is quite a common one, would probably be to be very wealthy at some point. Now, I've often wondered why I would want that, because in my day-to-day life, I'm not particularly interested in spending money on anything. Most of the things, I guess this is kind of a lofty thing to say, but almost everything I want in life can't be bought, which is very inconvenient. Like, you can't buy yourself being better on the piano. You have to sit on there for years and try it, which is nice in some ways because, you know, there's a low barrier to entry in terms of resource, but in terms of time and effort is bloody difficult. So being wealthy is one, but just to branch off from that, I've been watching the Marvel films recently, and the character of Thanos, maybe there's some spoilers in here for people who are watching it, who's like the big bad that the whole 10-year franchise was leading up to. He like moves heaven and earth to achieve his goal, which is a pretty unpleasant goal, but in his mind it's a very justifiable goal. And he does things that are just like, you know, he beats people that are very impressive, he achieves many impressive things. But when he's done his goal, you see at the end of the first film that he's just sitting down on his farm. He basically retires. He's like the most powerful entity in the universe. And he just thinks, well, I've done my job, now I can stop. So I kind of have a similar kind of view towards money. It's not that I would just retire with money, it's just that the only reason I want to make money is in a, maybe this comes from a slightly negative place, is almost to prove a point that whatever so far not so good ideas I've had about how to, you know, live your life or my approach to life, it's about kind of justifying, like here's the socially accepted evidence in the form of money that the way I want to approach life works. Now the aim is not money, but at the same time it's like a complete proof that it does work. I mean, being happy is the ultimate proof, and that doesn't need to be shown to anyone other than yourself and people close to you. I mean, I do genuinely believe that. I'm realising that more and more. But it would be nice to have that, yeah, if we're being lofty here, and if we're revealing secrets, it would be nice for me to just say, listen, I made a lot of money because I knew what I was doing. On my tombstone. Okay, maybe not on my tombstone, but yeah.
I think being good in a field, money is a way of measuring success.
Yes, a nice metric, exactly. Yeah. It's a socially acknowledged metric. Like, it doesn't say anything about your character, how you treat people, which I mean, like I said, the older I get, like I'm nearly 26 now, which in my mind is like 1,000 years old, so I feel pretty old already. Like, as 26 for me, it depends on the person. There's some people I meet that are in their 50s or 60s and they're just so youthful and so energetic. For me though, I feel like, you know, 26, I already felt like I was like, had the mind of like an old soul, even like 10 years ago, so now I feel really old. Yeah, character, how you treat people, how principled you are, almost regardless of the principles, even if there was a principle that I totally disagree with, or that I found, like, you know, repulsive for some reason. I do admire people that stick to them, regardless of what they are, because, you know, who is in a position to say that their principles are superior to another person's?
Yeah, and I mean, your principles, if you're wise, as you learn more in life, your principles will, you know, grow and change as well.
That's true. Yeah, changing your mind is an underrated thing. I think people look down upon people that commit to something, doesn't work, then they change their mind. But that's actually a very courageous thing to do. How's the popsicle going?
Delicious. Okay, Nathan, I feel like you did a really good job. I feel like this is going to be fun to watch later in life. Thank you for being here. I'm so happy the people that we have that have been following us through this entire journey. It's just such an alive thing, and we are having so much fun, and the fact that we have people that are here with us doing this thing with us and following along and living their life, I mean, it's just so fascinating, and it's a pleasure. The end. Goodbye.
The end. Goodbye. Yeah.